Senator, thanks so much for being here. We always appreciate it. I want to start with the executive order that President Trump signed into law on Friday. Three of your fellow Republican senators now, Ben Sasse, Susan Collins, and Jeff Flake, came out and said that the order goes too far. Let me show you the statement from Senator Sasse, which reads in part, while not technically a Muslim ban, this order is too broad. Do you agree?
I agree with both of those aspects. I mean, one, it is not a ban. However, I think it was not properly vetted. So you have an extreme vetting proposal that didn't get the vetting it should have had. And as a result, in the implementation, we've seen some problems.
And what do you think should be done now?
Well, look, I think we should slow down. And there was discussion earlier about hysterical voices on both sides of this. Let's make 2 points. One, our country is not as safe as it should be. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. We've had plenty of testimony in the last couple of years about the fact that there's not adequate screening, particularly on our visa waiver programs. And, so I do think we need to tighten things up. And I think there's a general consensus about that. Congress passed legislation to do so at the end of 2015. But second, we got to do it in a way that's consistent with our values and consistent with our national security. And, we are this beacon of hope and opportunity for the rest of the world. That's our self-image. It's also an important part of our foreign policy. So we've got to do it in a way that makes sense. And we have a Cleveland Clinic doctor, for instance, who was turned away last night, apparently. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah, let's talk about that Cleveland Clinic doctor because we have her picture up there. Her name is Suha Abu Shama. She holds a passport from Sudan. She was going to the Cleveland Clinic. She was forced to leave, even though she holds an H-1B visa for workers in specialty occupations. Did sending that Ohio doctor out of the country, did keeping her from coming into the United States, did it make the United States safer?
No, because she's been properly vetted. But there are other examples of it. Jim just mentioned one, the San Bernardino killer, of course. She did come here on a visa. It was a fiancé visa. We found out in the Homeland Security Committee later that, in fact, she had been on websites talking about her jihadist views, and yet somehow that had not been picked up. So there are ways for us to ensure that the screening is better, but we have to be sure that it's targeted. In fact, part of the problem is we don't have the resources to do that kind of broad vetting. We need more resources at the department. We also need to know who's coming to the country and who leaves. And the notion that we don't have an exit entry program and good data on visa holders who are here is really surprising to my constituents. So there are things that we can and should do.
Do you think the ban or the temporary ban for 4 months on people from these 7 countries coming into the United States is consistent with American values? Because I know you spoke against, pardon me, the Muslim ban when President Trump voiced it in 2015-16. A lot of people think that this is just a smaller version of a Muslim ban, finding 7 majority Muslim countries. By the way, none of the 9/11 hijackers came from any of these 7 countries. You have tens of thousands of Somali refugees and immigrants in Columbus, Ohio, who are literally crying this weekend because they're not able to bring over their loved ones who are terrified of being killed by terrorists in Somalia. Is this consistent with American values?
Again, this needs to be based on the facts. And my understanding, executive order does not list all those countries. It lists, I think, Syria and Iraq. But the presumption is those would be the countries included because those were the countries that Jeh Johnson included previously based on the legislation I talked about with regard to visa waivers and the visa program. So I do think, you have to go to these countries and say, are you going to provide us the information we need on these people coming into our country? And if they will, then you allow that to happen. If they don't, then I do think you need to have tighter screening. So I think that's the idea here, is to have better requirements. But it needs to be something we work on together also. Congress has played a role here. Obviously, the executive branch agencies have been involved with this. And so, again, this was an extreme vetting program that wasn't properly vetted.
But I guess just the last thing, and then I do want to move on to some other issues, is what are you going to tell those Somali women who are trying to get their children to the United States, who have just been told nobody from Somalia can come into this country for 4 months? This could literally be I don't want to be hysterical, but this literally could be a matter of life and death for these refugees.
Yeah, well, look, I think, again, we need to figure out what the executive order actually says, and my understanding is it doesn't cover all of those countries specifically, but
it mentions, you're right, it mentions Syria and Iraq.
Yeah.
And then it refers to congressional legislation that covers the other 5 that I mentioned, including Somalia.
Again, I think the previous Homeland Security Secretary had named those countries because of a lack of information and the fact that either ISIS or Al Qaeda was present in those countries.
But ending the visa, Senator, you know this.
Smart.
Ending the visa waiver program for those countries is not the same as ending admission of anybody from
Yeah.
those countries.
And again, it is a temporary ban, as I understand it. In my view, we ought to all take a deep breath and come up with something that makes sense for our national security. And again, for this notion that America has always been a welcoming home for refugees and immigrants. In fact, we are more welcoming than any country in the world, and we should continue to be so.
So you want to undo what President Trump just did, or you want him to?
I think we need to. At this point, there's a stay in effect. 2 judges now have issued state, as I understand it. I think that's appropriate, and let's allow those people who have come here legally to this country to get out of detention.
Yeah.
Allow them to go to the Cleveland Clinic, for instance, as this doctor was banned from doing so. And let's take a look at this entire situation.
So you think the Senate, the Congress, needs to take a look at this and get involved in it?
Yeah, I mean, we ought to be part of it. We've been working on this, and again, we passed legislation in this regard. We also had bipartisan legislation in January 2016 that didn't pass. The Senate did pass the House with big numbers that went a little further in terms of some of these procedures. So I think we ought to work together on it.
Okay, so you want the stay to stay.
I'm okay with the stay, and I think we ought to also improve our national security by improving the screening process of these people coming into our country.
Let's turn to another matter of national security, one I know that you're very eager to talk about, and that has to do with Russia. President Trump spoke by phone with Vladimir Putin yesterday. There is obviously this question about whether or not President Trump is going to lift sanctions on Russia. You oppose that. Will you go to the mat? Will you reimpose them legislatively?
I'm a co-sponsor of legislation to do just that, so it's proactive legislation to say let's ensure these are codified. In other words, not something that a president could change. Because
just put them into law.
Put them into law, codified, because Russia has clearly violated international law. Their dangerous acts, including taking of Crimea, and what they're doing even today on the eastern border of Ukraine, are the reason for these sanctions. To relieve these sanctions without getting at that underlying cause would be a huge mistake. By the way, a huge mistake for American foreign policy, too, setting a precedent that when sanctions are put in place, they can be relieved, perhaps for other reasons. So I would strongly urge the administration not to move forward with removing those sanctions until the reasons those sanctions were put in place are resolved.
And as you know, on Friday, when British Prime Minister Theresa May was here in the United States, she said what you just said. Mm-hmm. Those sanctions can't be lifted until Russia resolves what they have done in Ukraine, not to mention other things they've done in other places.
Yeah, in
Georgia,
Crimea.
Syria, Crimea, et cetera. Well, I'm counting Crimea as Ukraine.
Thank you.
But President Trump seems to be more ambivalent and have a more open mind about it. Obviously, every president comes to office thinking, we're going to have a better relationship with Russia. George W. Bush did it, Barack Obama did it, but this seems to be something else. Because he's never even said one critical word of Vladimir Putin as a candidate or as a president. Do you have any insight as to why that is?
Well, look, I just saw his statement earlier on your program where he said, I hope to have a better relationship with Russia. It will be in our national interests. That may happen. It may not happen. I think that's about the right attitude. I mean, look, we all would like to see a better relationship with a country that has this arsenal of nuclear weapons and has, so much influence around the world. And we do have common enemies, including ISIS, that we should be working on together. But the fact is, Russia continues to take actions, whether it's on the eastern border of Ukraine or whether it's Crimea or what they've done in Syria or other things in terms of human rights that are not consistent with our national security. We need to stand up and we need to ensure that we're not sending the wrong message to our allies and to our adversaries.
So you already have this legislation, and you're going to put it forward. What if it passes the House and the Senate, and then President Trump vetoes it? Will you push for an override of the veto?
Yes, of course. I mean, if it's legislation that I agree with, of course I would. And I think there's a good chance we could have this legislation be bipartisan. In the Senate, our co-sponsorship is equally divided between Republicans and Democrats. I think there's a general sense in the House and the Senate that we need to ensure that a clear message is sent. This is not imposing new sanctions, by the way, as much as ensuring that the existing sanctions stay in place.
Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, it's always good to see you. Thanks,
Jake.
for being
Thanks
here,
for being
sir.
on.